traversed the tombs of Naxxramas. We've climbed every cliff on Black Rock. Now the world cries out for heroes. As a new evil rises, there will be danger. There will be doom. There will be ancient temples filled with relics, treasures, and traps. Who will answer the call?
Explorers lead, and we are in need of explorers. Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Born to come and join us.
Yes!
Hello and welcome back, and this is going to be day 4 of the StarLadder and I-League Hearthstone tournament here. I am Tannen Grace, and I am joined by Lothar. How are you doing today?
Good. A very fine day for me, and how it was for you? I mean, it just started, right?
Yeah, my day just started. I literally woke up, took a shower, had some breakfast, and fired this up, so it's good to go. I like how your day is winding down and mine is just getting started, but this is how I like to start my days, with some Hearthstone, and boy, do we have some good Hearthstone for you today. We have the same 5 people returning from yesterday to finish out their group. That's going to be Neirea, Jab, Firebat, Sixo, and Trump. And we had one person escape with a 2-0 record yesterday. Who was that, Lothar?
That was Trump, and believe it or not, but he crushed his opponents. And I talked about this yesterday a lot. Like, Trump was kind of an underappreciated player for a long time because of his appearance primarily being a streamer, so viewers were actually undermining his achievements, and yet here he is with this group of death managing to do a 2-0 record during day 1, and now he needs practically one more win to secure to advance. So, well, most likely one more win. We'll see how the tiebreakers will go. So, but he's closer than anyone else in this group, and this will be a fierce battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see that only one person actually had an 0-2 record. Unluckily for him, that was Sixo, and his matches were not long either. I think he had some pretty bad luck yesterday. His opponent's draws just matched up very well against his.
Some questionable decisions, though, too, right? Those executes that were played super fast with almost no time to actually think about those decisions. I think they were kind of rushy, let's say, like kind of too hasty, and executes on Pile Destroyer for just 1 damage seems like a lackluster thing to do, but can't really remember if that was like the only option. But for sure there was some kind of hard really bad draws for him, bad beats, and that can happen. Of course, it's a card game, so can happen to anyone, and I'm hoping that he will get back into his seat just to show that he's a really great player and win the 2 next games, just to have a good feeling with his about his game plan and play style, and being an okayish 2-2 having an okayish 2-2 result in his group. But first match that we'll be having, what it will be?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have Neirea versus Jab, and we got both webcams up. Love seeing this. Love being able to watch the players while they play. Both of these players are going to be coming in at 1-1 from yesterday. Super excited to see these guys play. I'm very familiar with both of them in their games. Neirea, one of those guys, I think he flies a little bit under the radar. It surprises me still that he's still under the radar, because this is one of the best players in the world. He plays amazing, and he plays cool decks. He's always got some, tech card somewhere, or some card or some deck that, you're not used to seeing as much. He plays a lot of cool things too. So great player for me to watch. And then what can you say about Jab, man? He's one of the guys that he's just the champion of Hunter. Just always brings it to every event, whether it might not be in the best place or not, but it has been good for him so far in this event. And that's what he's playing here in game 1.
Yeah, and very important for those guys to get that second win, like under their belt. It's a huge motivational thing to have, like to not be 1-2 in their group, because it really depends on the results, but one of the players with 2-2 result will probably advance. That of course depends on the other games of the other players, the results that will be undergoing today, that will be made during the day 2. But at the same time, you have to be on your toes, because the games are played live, and there's you have to watch the other players playing how they are playing the games during the tournament.
And what a draw here from Neirea. Just got the absolute dream against any aggressive deck here. He's got the early ramp into a Keeper of the Grove, into an Innervate hero power. And I know this doesn't sound super exciting, but look at the board state here. He's under no pressure. He just cleared Jab's entire board.
Yep.
And he's going to be going into his turn 5, practically with no pressure against him. He's going to be able to taunt up this Druid of the Claw. And, I mean, this game might be pretty fast, but Jab has some heavy hitters in his hand as well.
He has the heavy hitters in his hand, but the problem is he is just too slow to respond to the threats on the board. The Freezing Trap doesn't really do much when there's Darnassus Aspirant hidden after oh god, really hard day. Is hidden within the Druid of the Claws, outside the Druid of the Claws reach, right? Because it's the taunt is guarding the Darnassus Aspirant, so it will just take the Battle Cry benefit for Neirea, and he will not be punished by the Death Rattle of the Darnassus Aspirant in this case. So the Freezing Trap is a dead card right now, and the Savage Roar from Neirea will guarantee him 8 damage at least. And I'm sure that he's actually thinking about using the Savage Roar this turn, and I think he should go for it. And he goes for it. So 8 damage guaranteed for just mere 3 mana. This is a huge push, which almost guarantees lethal next turn if I'm not mistaken. It's 6, 14, 15 damage, which leaves Jab on 9 health. Yeah, that's basically
and he's got
the game.
He's got a swipe to back this up too, and I love this play from Neirea. You saw it right away, and I was hoping that he would do this. I feel that this is a play that maybe sometimes players don't make enough. They sit back and they're like, oh, I need to finish my opponent off with the Savage Roar. I need to make sure that that's what happens, and that's not always exactly what that card is for. You can just push your advantage super early, and you can make your opponent play this way for the rest of the game. Jab cannot take damage again for the rest of the game practically. I mean, he's going to be on the back foot for the whole game.
Look how it resolved with the Knife Juggler. That was just crazy. The Knife Juggler hit twice, Druid of the Claw, making the only trade possible for trade that rescued him from this position for just a second, But at least he didn't get killed the turn, because otherwise he would have had to trade the second Pulse Shot into the Druid of the Claw, and Neirea would still have Darnassus Aspirant and Keeper on the board, which would practically mean 4 damage to the face instead of trading, and that keeps him still on the board.
Yeah, I think it's really important that Jab got something going that turn, because it forced Neirea to be reactive that turn and use a swipe in the way that he did. If the swipe ever gets to go face there, the game is obviously just over. Or if he just gets to draw cards, I don't think, on that turn if he gets to draw cards, I don't think Jab is going to be able to get back in this game. But this is a pretty big play here. Houndmaster on a Myexna, and then he's going to use the quick shot to finish off this Keeper of the Grove. I mean, I might have spoke a little too soon about this game being just over. I said Jab had some ways to get into this, and that Knife Juggler you talked about being on point helped so much in this game.
Without the Knife Juggler hits, getting that additional trade for the Darnassus Aspirant, I think that game was already over, because Neirea would have had the mana for Ancient of Law 1 turn earlier, and now he wasn't able to do that, so he was kind of behind the board by just that 1 mana crystal, who would make a huge difference. So that Knife Juggler is the MVP for Jab right now. This is the only reason why he's still in the game. And
yeah, absolutely.
In this situation, he needs to out on 6 points of health. Even though it's low, we know that he's facing a Druid, and the Druid has limited resources of having an instant damage from hand, especially the mid-range one, right? So he knows that he has to clear those minions and get some value from the Freezing Trap he is still having in his hand. So I guess this will be the turn when he will play the Freezing Trap and Houndmaster to just have a huge minion on board, which is almost an immovable object for Neirea.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about. Jab has finally turned that corner. Now he's in the driver's seat, and things are looking a little rough for Neirea here. He does get to power up this Wrath, this Azure Drake. He wants to maybe draw some extra cards, but he doesn't have a lot going on right now. There's still a 6/7 Taunting Myexna on the other side of the board. This is bigger than most of the minions that Neirea is going to be able to pull out of his deck. Plus, it kills anything that it touches. And then Jab still has a Dr. Boom in his hand, plus an animal companion and hero powers that you have to believe are going to be happening every turn. So he's going to be able to turn this corner and deal a ton of damage quickly. So Neirea not only needs to get back in this game as fast as possible, he needs to find a way to win it as fast as possible.
Yeah, well, the win is not that far away when you think about it, because it's only 6 HP left on Jab. But he is limited just to 1 card draw per turn, unless he will get a second Engine of Law or an Azure Drake, but it might be too late. The damage is stacking, you know, like the Jab is able to pile on the damage every single turn. He will clear 1 minion, and I'm thinking about ignoring the Emperor and just go face with the Maexna, because you need to set up the lethal for next turn, and this is the only possible setup, and he does that. Good read.
Yeah, I'm usually not a big fan of ignoring Emperor. You know, most people aren't, but I agree with you here. You need to, because he has to set up lethal. You know, he needs to actually end this game as quickly as possible. And giving Neirea another discount isn't going to matter, because Jab is trying to set up a game where the second discount isn't going to have a chance to actually happen, because Neirea won't get to take that turn.
Yes, another thing, he played the trap, so he's bluffing the second freezing trap. So Neirea is like, what can I do now? If I will get... I need to get Force of Nature, then I will use one of my treants to get it back into my hand from freezing trap, so I can attack with my Emperor. But he checks for the freezing trap first. He doesn't... He now knows it's not snake trap, it's not freezing trap, it's possibly just explosive trap or bear trap. And both are quite bad for him. Now he has to use the Wrath to kill the Maexna, to play around lethal next turn, and maybe he'll check for the explosive trap, so we'll see how that goes. But he needs to play the Wild Growth this turn.
Yeah, and he's got to do it fast. These animations have to happen, and that rope is going down. Now, Jab doesn't have lethal showing just yet. The Animal Companion could help out with that, but he probably needs to still draw some more damage off the top here. So he's got, oh, that'll actually just get it done. Depending on, I was about to say, if it's if it's Misha.
It's not. So it's 5 damage from the hero power and the boat. Well, 14 damage, unless the bombs will get lucky. So
yeah, as I say, there's a chance he actually tries to go for a lethal here with the bombs, like, you know, just runs a bomb into one of the minions to begin with, because he actually needs to start worrying about getting comboed out now as well. You know, there is some backdoor action that Neirea can do here. Like, if the card in his hand is one of the combo pieces and he draws the other one, Jab can still die from the spot, and that's a big bomb for him there. His 2 bombs take out both of Neirea's minions, and I gotta believe there's a chance that Jab plays it really safe here and takes out this Darnassus, but it's going to be hard for him to not push this 7 in it. Yeah, I was going to say, he might not want to take the 2 to his face here, so... Yeah, that's what he's going to sit. He's going to sit here and take just a minute to think about this. You know, what are the good and bad parts of using my weapon to take care of the minion here? And he's actually just going to push the 3 damage into Neirea here. I was going to say, I don't think Neirea has too many outs. Now, Big Game Hunter does give him possibly...
There's no out of...
yeah, there's no out right after the Big Game Hunter here and cycling Wild Growth.
There's a Force of Nature kind of too late, because now he is able to go just to deal 2 damage to his opponent's face, and that's it.
Wow, what a game here. And you know what? This is one of my favorite things about watching Jab play, is this game looked really bad over the first 3 turns. I mean, it was about as bad as it could be. Jab had a 1-drop and a 2-drop, but he ran into one of the best draws that Druid can have against an aggressive start to begin the game. You know, he had the turn 3 Keeper of the Grove off of a Darnassus into Innervate Hero Power, like, control your entire board. The entire board of Jab was gone, but he didn't panic. You know, he kept to his guns. He played well over the next couple turns, found a way to turn the game around, and then got the win. Love seeing players just persevere through, you know, amazing openings of their opponent.
Yeah, well, to be fair, this kind of comeback was only possible because of the random juggles from the Knife Juggler. Jab was practically dead, apart from the situation that just happened. The Knife Juggler getting 25% shots, if I'm not mistaken, hitting the Druid of the Claw twice in a row, and this was the only possibility of him making a comeback. Without that, the additional attack from the Darnassus Aspirant and the additional mana was just making too big of a difference. That would make too much possible outs for Neirea to have, and of course he played well. Both players knew exactly when to deal the damage, and that was very important, because Neirea did see the Savage Roar on turn 6 when it was not maybe the best mana usage that turn, but it was the best play to make. And the same goes for Jab when he attacked with the Max Knight to the face instead of just killing the Emperor, which is usually a threat you'd kill, but he recognized that he needed the damage right now.
Yeah, we're going to move straight into game 2. These guys are going to be firing it off real fast today. Neirea, this is kind of his comfort zone. I feel like he likes to play a lot of control decks, and this is a control warrior for him, and he has Fiery War Axe early, which is really important in this matchup because he's playing against Zoo, which wants to get a lot of early minions on the board and just, kind of spam the board. They want to, go wide, as we say, play a bunch of minions, not just one giant one, which they have the capability of doing, but generally they want to play 3 to 4 minions to board at a time and kind of value out you out that way. Cards like Direwolf Alpha do a lot of work in this deck, and it wants to empty his hand as fast as possible, so it gets the best Doom guards possible.
Yep.
But Neirea's hand is really good at fighting what Jab's doing right now.
It is, and he has a lot of answers what will be happening in the future turns. The 2 bashes are one of my favorite cards in Control Warrior. They're just so neat, so just a clean card, 3 mana, deal 3 damage, get 3 armor. Sounds nice.
Synergy, yeah.
Yeah, and it synergizes so well with the armor, with the warrior deck. But in general, what we see, the Direwolf Alpha is making such a huge difference for Jab here. That pushes through an entire Sludge Belcher with just mere 3 mana investment, and the rest, the mere measly imps from after the implosion make a huge difference here.
And Zoo has always been one of my favorite decks in all of Hearthstone. I like the fact that it's an aggressive deck, but it also rewards you for playing really well. Minion placement is very important in Zoo. It's not like your typical aggro deck where you just keep playing your minions. Like in Hunter, doesn't really matter where you put your minions most of the time. You might want to make sure your shredders are in the middle if you have 3 minions. That's about it. But in Zoo, you got to think about all your permutations of where you put your guys because, there's some stuff that really matters, like your Direwolf Alpha. If you end up missing 1 damage because of that, it can be the difference in a game. And I want to talk about this. Jab's got a 1-of in his deck that we've started to see a little bit crop up in this deck every now and then, and that's Big Game Hunter. And that card is going to be not short of targets in this matchup. Neirea is going to have a lot of them, and one of them comes directly to his hand this turn. That is a Baron Deaden, and that card is pretty important in this matchup sometimes too. It's a good way for the Control Warrior to clean up the board of the Zoo deck and apply a ton of pressure all in one turn.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say that he is sporting Abusive Surgeon in his decks, and that makes it also very easy to have a target for the Big Game Hunter, even though your opponent doesn't run any. Like let's say you're facing a Druid that has an Ancient of War. You just Abusive Surgeon that and play the Big Game Hunter, and you instantly get rid of 10 HP. Oh my god!
Oh no!
There's Doomsayer! No! I knew it!
The dreaded Doomsayer out of the piloted Shredder. We have seen this happen. I've seen this happen too many times, Lothar. And Neirea gives him a little gamesmanship there, gives him the sorry. You know that Neirea isn't actually sorry, but
yeah,
if you can get in your opponent's head a little bit, you got to. And I love this play from Jab. This is a play I make with this deck quite a bit when you need to re-establish board here. He just got to play 6 mana and get a 4/4 and 3 1/1s. He gets to implosion his own Nerubian egg here.
That's true, and now it seems really tough for Jab because he lost a lot of resources, but at the same time Neirea is low on cards, so he's low on answers, and that will make a huge difference too. Now his spells are also costly, so he needs to use that Grom unless, wait, he just did get a Death Bite. But I still think the Grom might be a better investment. It has 9 HP, he can kill one of the minions. It's just a board control tool. So it's either you get the Death Spite out so you can clear 3 minions in 2 turns, or play Grom, kill the 1 minion instantly now, get a bigger body on the board, and get at least 2 trades next turn, and then use the Death Spite. A tricky turn, I would say.
I'll say power bombing would have been lethal this turn, but Jab's going to be, it looks like, a tiny bit short of it, but he's still going to have a great turn. He's going to be able to use Defender of Argus here, and I was going to say I like putting it, I like putting it over here in between, like kind of protect the Lotheb from this Death Spite, and then just push a ton of damage. Neirea showed that he wasn't able to deal with what Jab was doing last turn, and it's going to be even more impossible for him this turn. Looks like we might be seeing a quick 2-0 lead here by Jab. These aggressive decks have come out swinging for him.
Yeah, like even though they had the Doomsayer out from the Pile Destroyer, that did cost him quite a lot. It was 2 minions. In the end, it doesn't really matter because he had Lotheb and Doomguard to secure the board control and just deal insane damage.
Yeah, I mean, great point. I mean, the game would already be over if it wasn't for Doomsayer to gotten in a little more damage. Maybe Neirea would have played his turn a tiny bit different, after seeing the Doomsayer come out. But Jab, he had just enough to reload and have a huge board and stuff. And that's what's good about this Zoo deck, too, is if you're not applying pressure to it, it gets to use its hero power every single turn because you're not threatening to lethal them in any way. And they're going to get so many extra cards that it's going to be very hard for you to keep up. Now, Neirea isn't actually dead just yet, so...
Now let's see what will be the draw for Jab. Yet those draws are not guaranteeing anything here, but he still has the upper hand. 2 minions on board, and he can just follow it up with a Knife Juggler to be 1 damage of lethal. No! Imagine if that would be an Echoing Ooze, it would be already over.
Yeah, and he does get the Nerubian Egg in play, which, let's say something crazy happens that he lost his entire board, the Nerubian Egg would leave behind a 4/4 here and be able to threaten Neirea for lethal again. And so this is, it seems like a replay of what happened in our first match so far yesterday as well. We had a very quick 3-0 in our first match, and hopefully for Neirea, the same thing doesn't happen. But he knows what deck Jab has left. All these players have probably done the research because they're playing the same decks they did yesterday. So there's not going to be any surprises in these matchups from the other deck. And it looks like Neirea is just going to go for the coin flippy matchup of, Druid versus Druid. And Jab, already a slight advantage so far because he has a ramp spell in his opening hand.
Yeah, he has the Darnassus Aspirant in his hand. Neirea only has the Rapid, which is very important to have. Oh wait, he mulliganed away. Okay, then never mind. He doesn't have anything right now, and it looks very bleak.
Yeah, I've seen some games like this before where the Druid's opening hand looks really bad, and they just have a bunch of 4s and 5s and 6s and no way to play them early, or maybe just a coin. And then somehow 9 turns down the road, they're just in this overwhelming position when they win because their curve is still just so strong. I mean, you're still playing some of the best minions on your curve at all times, and it's not like Jab's hand is going to, beat Neirea down like Zoo or Hunter would be doing, and that's a timely top deck for Neirea there as well, that he doesn't have to just, put a big game Hunter onto the board. He gets an actual good minion in Shade on curve.
Yeah, it is a good minion. A second Shade will help it out. But Jab has the option to finish off one of these Shades, and then Neirea can't use his second Shade to trade for the Mountain Raptor next turn, so it's still waiting for any good opportunities. I would favor the Keeper of the Grove here instead of any kind of draw cycle with the Rev and Hero Power, because it doesn't build the board, and that's the most important thing here for Jab, to have the board control, have more minions on board, have the bigger Savage Roar possible, because even though he doesn't have it in the hand, Neirea has to think about it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why you see this new card in Jab's deck, Mounted Raptor. It's just a good value minion. It's a 3-power minion for 3 mana. Not the worst thing ever in Hearthstone. Not the best deal, but not the worst. But it leaves behind a minion when it dies, too. So it makes sure that your Savage Roars just get in that extra damage. So while this isn't the aggressive Druid deck that we see, and it is more like the mid-range ramp that we're just so used to seeing over, the last, 9, 12 months of Hearthstone, it still has that ability to really get you as quickly as possible because his minions are a little more sticky than normal. He has Mounted Raptor and Piloted Shredder in his deck, which leave behind bodies. So Savage Roar is a little bit more of a threat out of his deck than, say, the normal Druid deck.
Yeah, I really like the Mounted Raptors because they, what they can do in those critical matchups, is that they can trade for Piloted Shredder and still leave a body behind, which is very important because it's a 3-drop that kills a 4-drop, and they both practically contested the outcome of the next drop, because usually a 1 mana cost 1 minion will have 2 attack, and most of the minions for 2 mana will have 2 HP. So it's a very good opportunity for the Mountain Raptor to take a whole Palette Shredder, which is huge swing in mana, even though it's only 25% of the cost of the card.
And Jab gets a Stone Tusk Boar, allowing him to use his hero power to actually clear that shade here. That was a good one for him to get out of his Mountain Raptor, and this is what we're talking about. He's just got minions left over on the board. He's almost always going to have board position with these Mounted Raptors and these cards like this, and I mean, his hand is full of a bunch of hits. He's the first one to get a Dr. Boom into play here. He's going to push some damage, and Neirea, this has got to give him some pause here. He's got to be worried about a card like Savage Roar, because it's going to kill him from this board position at any time in this game.
Yeah, fortunately for him, he has the Big Game Hunter. That's the one-off that he has in his deck that will guarantee kind of getting back into the game. Without the Big Game Hunter, it would look very bleak for him. 2 damage from the bomb to the face will not change anything in the board control position. So right now, what Jab would need is a swipe. But of course, he will not dig for an Azure Drake. With the Azure Drake, he will just go for the Ash Novel, which has the best. Oh, look at that! That was actually from the top of the deck.
Wow!
That would actually be so sick when you think about it.
If he just goes Azure Drake, swipe your Keeper here. I mean, I'm sorry, swipe your Lotheb. Like, this game might just be over. Yeah, that was.
You can actually swipe the Keeper, because then the bomb goes into the Lotheb and guarantees damage to the face. So it would have been just such a blowout.
Yeah, and so I mean, Neirea, he's kind of pulling the Jab move so far here. He's a little behind in this game, but he's just fighting his way back into it, and he's gonna get his own Dr. Boom if he decides to make it so this turn. There's a couple other options that he has here, but it's real hard to pass up on a Dr. Boom.
And now, let's see. Neirea can trade the Lotheb. He can ignore the Warbot for now, because he needs to develop the Dr. Boom. The other options are just Druid of the Claw and then Aspirant, which doesn't really do much. With 2 Savage Roars in the hand, 12 damage, 19 damage now, that doesn't really change much.
Yeah, I'm trying to wonder if there's a world where if you trade off Lotheb, charge your Druid of the Claw into the 1/3, and then play Darnassus and get in a hero power, or you can just taunt it up. This works as well. Get a little extra damage in, and these double Savage Roars can finish off next turn.
I was actually thinking about the charging also, I think it was actually the better move to charge the Druid of the Claw and just kill the Warbot to deny possible trades with combo. Because
now Jab does have a clear here if he wants it with Force of Nature and Swipe as well. But the thing is he's still just going to have a 1/3 on board after this and leave initiative back to Neirea. And Neirea is starting to run out of minions, but he's got one pretty good one left in his hand.
Yeah, that replenishes the whole board, almost the whole board with just one card. Dr. Boom is a staple in, I would say, 90% of competitive decks. I'm very curious if Blizzard would do something about it, because it seems like for now Dr. Boom has he has the monopoly on 7 mana drop, There's no other 7 mana drop that is better than this card. So it's something that Blizzard has to think about, in my opinion, and maybe some slight changes to Dr. Boom to just balance it out will be appreciated by the community.
You heard it here, folks. Lothar for nerfing Dr. Boom 2016.
Yeah, it's a new one, right?
Yeah, I've never heard anyone complain about Dr. Boom ever.
Yeah. So now, Jab knows that a single combo is lethal for Neirea.
Yeah, I mean, he's at that weird point, though, where it's like, yeah, I know that I'm dead to combo, but, I mean, I really can't play around it. There's not a lot that I can do. So Jab's is going to do whatever he can, and I'm really surprised that this Boombot kills the Warbot here. I always feel that whenever you have an Azure Drake in play and your opponent has a Boombot, that the Azure Drake just dies immediately. It's like a heat-seeking missile for that 4/4.
Exactly, it's my impression as well. But now double Savage Roar is 12, 19, 18, and the swipe will go to the face, finishing off Jab, and it's 1-2. So it's not over yet. Neirea secured the win with his Druid in a brotherly battle between those Druid classes. And now What was the last class for Jab?
I'm sorry.
What was the last class for Jab? I'm trying to
Druid. He's got to play with Druid for the next
Oh
two
yeah,
games.
what I'm talking about. It's Conquest. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also another thing. We've had some last year standing tournaments lately, and StarLadder is sporting the Conquest format, which is quite different for the new people that are joining the esports, the Hearthstone esports scene. Conquest works in a different way than Zero Standing. In Last Zero Standing, you stay with the deck that is winning, so you can win 3 or 4 times with the same deck. But in Conquest, it's the complete opposite. You have 3 different decks, and each of those decks has to win at least one.
Yeah, and I'm a little excited that we're going to get to see the Warlock deck on Neirea. I was hoping he was going to win at least a game so we could see this deck. For anyone who didn't get to see him play yesterday, if I remember correctly, this is a really spicy one with a bunch of one-ofs. And if you've been playing Hearthstone over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you know what happens and what that means when a deck has a bunch of one-ofs, there's a Reno Jackson, and you can see it in his hand. This is one of the coolest new cards that come into Hearthstone because not only is it just a cool effect, it makes people play really awesome decks with, upwards of 27 to 30 different cards in their deck. So you have to start building differently.
Yeah, and it also affects the strategy of the game itself if you have it already in hand, because you have the heal within your grasp, right? So this makes it a really different game from what usually you see, but oh man, Jab is just cracking those cards. Wait, is that lethal?
I think this is lethal, right? This is 14,
What the hell?
7, 4. Yeah, this is actually just lethal with his hero power. I'm not his hero power, I'm sorry. This is actually just lethal here. This is the most unbelievable, I was gonna say, this is the most unbelievable draw I think I've ever seen. We're gonna see the Emperor Thoros on in, and wow, Druid doing Druid things. This turn is just actually just a meme. Look at this.
What
That
the
is
hell
turn
just
5, deal you 31 damage.
Even. It's not
Yeah,
even
I mean, this is
5,
turn
it's-
5, just actual damage. Wow, that is... We hadn't even talked about... We finished our first thought about the match, about the matchup, and Jab just kills Neirea with the best draw you could have in Druid. I mean, that draw was unbelievable.
Oh man, yeah, I have to feel bad for Neirea here. To be honest, I hate Innervate, and it's one of the cards that if someone asks me what is the most... I don't want to use the word hated again, but the most disliked card by me in the game is Innervate. It just breaks the rules of the game. I hated the cards like Black Lotus and Moxes in Petals in Magic, and I feel it's very similar to Innervate here, like the situation with Innervate here in Hearthstone. So it allows Jab to take the game in turn 4 with Druid combo after the Emperor turn. So it's quite crazy when you think about it, to deal 25 damage, if I recall correctly, with 2 minions on board on turn 4. So yeah.
Yeah, that was a casual game of Druid, and it was turn 2 Darnassus, turn 3 Emperor, trigger my Emperor, use another Innervate to actually combo you when I have 5 mana, but it's my turn 4. And you saw Jab, with the fist pump there, because he knows how important that match was. Not only does it get him to 2-1, but it moves Neirea down to 1-2 now. So if I'm not 100% on how the tiebreakers work in here, but let's say Neirea wins his next match and Jab loses his next match, and they're both at 2-2. Well, Jab has beaten Neirea, so I have to believe that is one of the tiebreakers that's going to come up. So that is a big deal for Jab. So he is the other player in this group that is he's going to be second to 2 wins. So that's a big win for him.
Yeah, well, usually the tiebreakers are taken into account when first tiebreaker that's taken into account is the in-game games won, right? So Jab has a 3-1 against Neirea when Neirea just is like at -2 from this game. But let's say that Neirea takes the next one 3-0 and Jab loses 0-3, and that makes a huge difference then. So it all takes, like, it will be all decided within the next games that we'll all watch in just few minutes, I guess.
Yeah, and speaking of the next games, let's talk about our next matches we're going to have after a short break. It's going to be 6-0 coming in at 0-2, so he needs to get it turned around. You said it right at the top of the show that hopefully he can get a 2-0 today and things go his way. I mean, he's not out of it just yet. Some crazy things happen, and we all know how good of a player he is, but he has a very tall task in front of him. His opponent is none other than the original world champion. Not not the new world champion, but the original world champion in Firebat, who's coming in at 1-1. And Firebat's got a pretty cool lineup. His is 3 control decks.
Yeah, he has the Dragon Priest, which I love seeing in tournaments. So it's something that will definitely probably will maybe even be our opener for Firebat in the next game. So hopefully we'll see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have those games ready for you in just a few minutes, guys. We're going to take a very short break here, and then we'll be back with that match. We're going to be back with Firebat versus 6-0. And just to recap, our first match, that was Jab winning over Neirea 3-1. So Jab is in a great position to move on. We're going to be right back at the short break with a little more Hearthstone here from StarLadder and iLeague. We'll see you in just a few minutes.